Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another video. So in this video we'll try to wrap the strings up by discussing different string properties and by discussing the different methods that can be used on strings. So the first thing I want to start with is the immutability. And what do I mean by this? So suppose I have a string with the variable name string which is equal to some name. Suppose that's Sam. If I try to print that string variable out, you will see that it prints out Sam. So now in this case, if I'm willing to get the first element, I would just write string, and in the square brackets I will write 0, and if I press shift enter, you would see that it grabs the S. If I'm willing to change this first word, so I cannot do this by writing directly by writing this. Like if I suppose I'm willing to change the same Sam to Pam, so I cannot do that by directly assigning the S by directly assigning the P at the place of S, which is string 0. So if I do that, you will see that it will gives us an error, which would state that string object does not support item assignment directly, which can be done in the case of lists or arrays or dictionaries, but not in the case of the strings. So that means that strings are immutable. They cannot like strings object does not support the item assignment. So that is just a simple explanation. So if you are willing to do this exact thing, like change the Sam to Pam, you will need to recreate another variable or recreate another string by using the string concatenation. So if you're willing to do that, the first thing you will need to do would be to grab the slice of the string. So in order to do that, you would come right over here and remove this line and create another variable by the name of last underscore letters. Once you do that, you will assign it to the slice that you want to grab. So that would be string, and as we have discussed, how can we get the slice? So we are willing to start from A. So the S would be the 0 and the A would be 1. And we want to go till the last, and if we press shift enter and I print the last letter, you will see that we have AM. Now we need to use the string concatenation in order to concatenate the P with it. So how can I do that? So I can just come over here and write P and then add a plus sign and then concatenate this with the last letter. And if I press shift enter, you would see that it echoes out Pam to me. Instead of Sam, we get Pam. So that's a little example of the string concatenation. If you're willing to concatenate two strings together, you can do that by writing a plus sign in between them. Now it was just one word. You can do the same string concatenation thing with sentences. And suppose I have a variable by the name of x, which is equal to some string hello world, and I'm willing to concatenate it with something else. So we can do that by writing x plus some other string. So that would be it is beautiful, something silly like that. So once I press shift and enter, you would see that it echoes out hello world, it is beautiful. But here you can see that we don't have any space right over here. That's because we don't have space right over here as well as right over here. So if I add some space and then press shift enter, you would see that we also get some space in the concatenation. So if you're willing to concatenate two sentences, you would just do that by writing the first variable or the first sentence and then the second sentence or the second variable. So up till now we were doing the string concatenation with the plus sign. You can also do string concatenation with the multiplication sign. So suppose I have some letter which is equal to, suppose A, and if you're willing to do the multiplication concatenation, you would write letter and just add a multiplication sign in front of it, and then add the number of times you want to multiply it. So suppose I want to multiply it 12 times. So if I do that, you will see that A is concatenated with A 12 times. Suppose you why would you even need that? Suppose you are willing to do some sleep signs, so you would make this letter A equal to Z, capital Z or small z, whatever you want, and we have to do that, make the Z as a character or a string. So once I do that and then do the same letter concatenation with multiplication, that would be letter multiplied with 12, and press shift enter, you will see that it echoes out the Z sign. So up till now we have learned you can do the concatenation with a plus as well as with multiplication. So here I want to go back a little bit, like where we discussed in our previous few videos, where we discussed the dynamic typing in Python. So like right now, right over here, you can use the plus sign for addition of two numbers as well as the concatenation of two numbers. Like suppose you have 2 and 5, you press enter, you get 7 answer. But you have the same 2 and 5 but in the form of strings, and if you add a plus sign in between them, so you get completely different answer. And like suppose you were expecting the 7 result but you got the 25, so which is completely wrong, and it is the hardest type of error, which is a logical error, which is hard to find and which is hard to solve. So you were expecting 7 but you have received 25, which is a big problem. So you need to understand what you are working with. Suppose you create a program which is designed to receive integer or float number, which adds them together, but instead the user inserts string values. So that would be a big problem, and which we will discuss later in our course and later in our further videos. But right now you should understand this, that where the dynamic type gives you a great advantage on reassigning the variables to different data types, there it also creates a problem for you. So you need to be aware of these things, that you can do plus addition with numbers as well as concatenation with the same plus sign, and this is true for the multiplication as well. So this was a little background, just to make you aware what the dynamic type of nature can create, like what kind of problems the dynamic nature of Python can create for you. So heading towards some more operations on strings. Suppose I have some string by the name with a variable x and with the string hello world. If I press shift and enter, the hello world would be stored in x. Now I can perform different functions on it. So I wrote down x and then added a dot, and if I press tab, you would see that different functions would pop up right over here, which can be performed on this string. So one function could be x upper, and what this function does is it converts the entire string to uppercase. So right over here you can see that in the hello world we were having the H capital, the E L L O small, then the W capital, and O R L D in small. But when I applied the upper on it, it converted everything to the uppercase. And you should note that the upper is not an inbound function. What that means is if I print just the x, you would see that it would not change the original value of x, which was h in capital and the rest in small, but it just echoed out the string entirely capital when we were applying the upper function, just that once. So it didn't change its original value. If you're willing to change its original value, you have to reassign this x, x dot upper to x again, which I'm not willing to do that because I need this hello world value of this x. One other function you can apply as well would be, so this was upper, the other one could be lower. And if I do that, you will see that it converts the entire thing to the small character. So here you can see that we were having this h capital, but it made it small, as well as this w was capital. So this lower also just brought that to small. One mistake the beginners make is that they write x dot lower. So they don't put this parenthesis or round brackets in front of the function. If you do that by mistake, you would see that the Jupyter Notebook would just show you what this lower do. It would not perform the operation. In this case, it was just making the entire string in small characters. But here you can see that it's just providing you the information about what the lower function is. So it's a function in Python that makes the string lower. But as you put the round brackets in front of it, you would see that it actually performs that operation. So you need to be aware of that. If you don't put the round brackets in front of it, the Jupyter Notebook will just provide information. And if you put these brackets in front of it, it will just run that function and do whatever it's supposed to do. That was just a little introduction to the upper and lower, as well as to the string concatenation, as well as how you can concatenate, as well as what this immutable thing means and why the strings are immutable. So let's look at one more function and then we will end our video, and that function is split. So suppose we have this hello world and we want to split this with the space. We want to make this hello a separate thing and this world a separate thing. In other words, we want to create a list from this string. So suppose so in other words, we want to create a list with having the hello as a first element and the world as second element. So we can do that by writing x and write split. And it is indeed a function, so I will put round brackets in front of it. If I do that, you would see that we get a list having the hello as first element and the world as second element. So what it does is whenever the split gets the string, it just split it wherever it's find space. So let's change this string a little bit. So suppose I have x, which is equal to hi, this is a string, and I want to split it with the space. So what I will do, I will write x dot split, and if I press shift enter, you would see that wherever it finds space, so hi, and then we were having space, so it just made the hi first element, and then this was the second element, and with the space we break and then or split it, and then is was the other element, then we split, then a, and then string. Suppose you want to change the character of split. Suppose you want to split this string with I. So what you do, you would just pass the I right over here. So if I do that, you would see that it will split this string with the I. what split function do is it looks for a parameter to be passed. So if it doesn't find a parameter, it will split the string with space. If you provide a parameter to the split, it will split the string with that character or with that parameter, and if you don't provide it, it will just by default get the space and split the string with that space. So this is pretty much it for this video. I hope you understand. Just to recap, the strings are immutable objects. We cannot reassign its character directly. We do have to concatenate or recreate a string in order to change something in it, or we need to use some function in order to do that. We do have string replace or something like that functions. Like, there is indeed an easiest way to do this, which is string replace, but the whole thing, the whole headache was to make you understand the string concatenation. That's why I took a longer route. My main aim was to make you understand the string concatenation, so we did concatenated the string. So the first thing we did was we created a slice from the string, then we concatenated p with it, and we made from Sam we made pan, and then we concatenated two sentences, and after that we looked at how to concatenate the strings or characters with multiplication sign, as well as what is the difference between adding two integers as well as adding two concatenating two strings. So what kind of problem can the dynamic nature of Python cause? And then we looked at some functions that we can perform on strings, that was upper, lower, and split. The upper and lower are straight functions that do not receive any kind of parameters, while the split was a little different function that by default split the string with space, but if you provide any parameter, it will take that parameter and split the string with that parameter. So this is pretty much it for this video. I hope you did learn something. In the next video, we will be discussing some more interesting stuff. So if you're following along this course, congratulations, you are going very well. If you're not, I would encourage you to go and watch the entire course. It's really informative, and it's completely designed for beginners to make you understand the programming and to make you take your first step in programming. So till next time, enjoy hacking. This channel is completely about ethical hacking and programming. Till next time, enjoy hacking. Stay cheeky breeky. Peace out.